Welcome to Digital Dialogues, episode 1. So we like to start this by saying that the two of us are communication experts. We have many, many years in the field. As I said to Tulia today, I feel like we have a foot and 3/4 in the traditional way of doing communication and communication trainings. And we have that 1/4 of a foot that right now is going into this marvelous, new, incredible, scary world of AI. So to make it very clear before we go any further, this is more about the questions and the reflections that we have and those who join us have about AI and the communication capabilities it has. We're not AI experts. I still think when I send an email, I want a round of applause, but we're very, very, very curious people. And so beside me is the wonderful
Lady,
Madame, as we like to call her.
Madame Tulia Lopez here. For the ones who don't know me, you there, Gabby and Paul, you know me a little bit. And I'm from Brazil. And as Cormac mentioned, I'm also a communication architect. And my job consists in helping leaders in all different industries to feel confident every time they speak. And Cormac and I, we take communication very seriously, and also we understand communication at a broader level. It's not only what you say, it's everything that's around you, and is the way you show up in the world. And saying that, we could not ignore this topic of the AI, the digital generative AI, which I started investigating this about 2 years ago. And I was on the side of being very skeptical as someone who doesn't know anything about it and was afraid of it and thinking, why do I need to bother about this? But then I'm more curious than scared. And I started investigating from the past 2 years. I started using the most common tools, which are ChatGPT, some other tools that are more in the generative AI spectrum. And now we are here, as Cormac said, we want to discuss, to build a dialogue into this arena, into this topic, because it's not going to go away and is already impacting our lives at many different levels. And it's time for us to start understanding and preparing ourselves. And more than this, preparing not in the sense of preparing against, but preparing in the sense, how can I take the most of it? How can this contribute to my daily work?
And your job and your career and your communication abilities. So my name's Cormac Walsh. Tulia and I have been friends now for many, many years. I have also been involved in communication trainings now for almost 20 years. I have kind of 3 target groups that I work with. I work with high-level executives and the communication needs that they have. I have also worked with teachers, and so teachers communicating in and out of the classroom and to parents. And then I also work in a school where I'm the deputy director. And so a lot of these tools that are second nature to some of the children that I see come to me, and like Tulia, for the last year, because it took about a year for Tulia to convince me, I've been afraid, actively afraid. And I think a lot of the conversations we have with people from our generation and the people that have a working history up to now, there is a fear about going into it. There is that kind of, it's best avoided. And if I go into it, I'm not going to know how to use it. I might embarrass myself. I might end up, overusing it. There's a lot of things where for many people, and I had a conversation with 3 friends today, where it's just easier to just park it for now.
Yeah.
As I said, one of the things outside of the sense of fun that we both have, we're very, very curious people. That's something that has connected us always. And this is something that we want to try to understand. So this is never going to be dialogues about how the algorithm works or who's behind the algorithm or who created it or who's making money off it. I mean, we don't know those things. What this is about is, and here we have 2 wonderful examples who've joined us tonight, Paul and Gabby. How do you both equally, I'm only meeting Paul for the first time, but Gabby, I know one of the traits that we also share is that wonderful sense of curiosity Gabby has. how do we use this tool to our best advantage, knowing that the tool is here now? It's not going to go away. It's not going to get any simpler. It's going to get more complicated, if anything. Tulia told me the other day, just as I got myself more or less understanding ChatGTP, Tulia told me that there are now 13,000 AI tools on the market.
On the market.
So you briefly set me back for about half an hour.
And
13,000.
Yes, and I want to share with you something that I've learned in these research, because I had to give a keynote in Madrid last month for the European Women in Management and Development, and their topic was about AI, networking, and the future of work, something like that. I said, well, this is an opportunity for me to talk about this topic from my perspective as a communicator. And in my research for my keynote, there's certain interesting things that from the very basic level that help me, and I hope it help you too, to get to as a starting point for our dialogue here. One thing is, what is AI really? And AI stands for artificial intelligence. But the thing is, it's not new. It has been with us for decades now.
Discreetly.
Yeah, but in a different manner.
True.
I'll get there, because the AI has been with us in the way we book our tickets, our food, Uber, Alexa, and Siri. All of these have been around us. But these were tools where they were performed under our command. They will only do what we tell them to do. But the generative AI is the different story, is a whole species of other kind. And the thing is, the generative AI, from the name itself says, it generates, it can create, it thinks, it learns, and it thinks. So that is come to the point, is this exciting or is this scary? Because these tools, which the author of the Sapiens, Yuval Harari, he just launched a new book, Nexus, and he says in that book that you should not call them tools. They are agents. So let's call them agents.
Okay, you talked to me about this earlier today. So what's the difference between a tool and an agent in that sense?
From what he says,
Yes.
the big difference is exactly this. The tools, as we had before, we still have Alexa, Siri, the booking tickets, etc. They work by command, and they do what you want them to do, and stops there. But the agents, generative AI, they go learning and they go growing in their knowledge, expanding their knowledge in an accelerated manner, exponential manner that we cannot as humans follow, and they go making their own assumptions, making correlations, connections. Yeah. And this is why it's exciting, but it's at the time is also, as you said very well, Cormac, who police the police?
Well, we had this discussion earlier today, Tulia and I, when we were preparing for this conversation. And that's one of the things that frightens me, because number one, you have, and we're not here to focus, by the way, on the negative things. Yeah. We are here to focus on what these tools can do for us. But there is agents, excuse me, but there is that idea of these agents on some levels are kind of parallel to us at the moment, because we need them for some things, they need us for some things, but we're also operating parallel in a sense. We're operating on our own. And so then the question always is, who polices the police? Who controls or looks after or stands up to the people who own the AI, control the AI, use the AI? But again, that's gone down a very dark road. So as Tulia already said, she was invited to give a keynote speech in Madrid for the European Women in Management and Development. And you were kind of, in a way, you were given a choice, because the theme of the conference was empowerment. It was management, it was development. There was the AI was in there, but when you were asked to do a keynote speech, that's what you focused in on. And so why did you do that? Remembering what we said in the beginning, that we're starting our journey here, but you were brave enough to jump in and do a keynote on it. That's very typical to you.
I was curious about how I could explore and share my experience on that matter. And my topic was, the title of my keynote was Conscious Communication in the AI Era. Why conscious communication? Since I started using since I started using generative AI, ChatGPT, which I call my ChatGPT, I call it Spocky from Mr. Spock of Star Trek.
I call mine Chatty, but
Yeah,
maybe I
mine
change it now.
is Spocky.
Captain Kirk or
So
something.
I realized something. As I started getting to it and exploring it, that for me to take the most of it, I really need to build a conversation, to build a dialogue with this agent.
A relationship almost.
A relationship, almost, yes. And then for me, what struck me was this light bulb was that the more I built this conversation in this dialogue with the agent, I was in a way improving my own communication skills, and I was becoming more conscious about what I was asking for.
The quality of your prompts. Don't you?
Exactly, which they call prompt engineering. I prefer to call prompt architecture because I'm an architect, so I take that for me. And but the interesting thing here, and I ask you there who are listening to think about this, because the machine, the agent, let's put out as an agent, it will perform as you tell, and it will assume certain things. Take as a starting point that it will assume things. So you need to be really clear on what you want, the vein you want to do to lead that conversation, that inquiry, that research, for it to be able to process all the zillions of information and give that summary for you. And I realized that the more I get into it, the more perceptive I become in my daily conversation with people, the more aware I become in terms of elaborating my own questions. Because let's face and let's be realistic and say here that what the main problem that we all face, and we that work in communication, Gabby, you're there, and you know that as well. What's the main problem we face when we go to coach, to train leaders in organizations? It's communication. It's lack of communication, it's miscommunication. And why is this? Because people are not able to express themselves clearly. So my topic was to bring this awareness that instead of being, oh, I don't want to try this, I want to be away, because there's no way to be away. It's here already.
We're in it.
We are in it, and it's not going to go away. And but how we can, one of the ways I found that I can benefit from this experience with these agents is by improving my communication skill. Because one of the points that I brought to the conversation there was that we are, since the internet, about what, 20, 30 years ago, the internet, social media, we are living in a monologue world. We have
you mentioned this earlier.
Posts, and we know we don't even call anybody anymore, or we send audio messages
or text.
And what happens? We are communicating via statements, one statement at the top of other statement. And when we get face to face, we are lacking the skills to build dialogue. That's my main point.
Because as you said earlier, when you have the statement upon statement upon statement, two things tend to happen. It's either a string of statements that are pretty much agreeing with the original statement, or you have this extreme statement that's thrown into the middle to try to court controversy, to try to get attention, but you don't actually have all of the slow gray area coming together of actual dialogue. That's missing when you're online. That's missing when you're in these monologue conversations that the internet have brought us. But from what you're saying, from your experience, AI, this Spocky, has actually helped bring that back for you, because you're engaging in a real conversation, or at least a nuanced, two-sided conversation that is missing from the now we can call traditional mode of internet communication. where it's statement versus statement on top of statement, statement, statement.
And I have experienced myself when I'm not so clear in what I ask, how I can get something immediately that is not exactly, and sometimes it's a little bit even out of context. And then what was the problem? Then I realized was my question. But in real life, what happens? We don't have this questioning. We ask a question or we say something, the person has a reaction there, and most people say, what happened with this person?
Yeah.
Or we say the comment like, I talked to Cormac, I explained to him, I'm tired of explaining to Cormac, but he does not understand. And who's the problem? It's
Of
Cormac's
course,
problem.
I'm going to say it's you
No.
because you didn't explain it properly. But yeah, I get that. That makes a lot of sense to me. And I think what you're saying here is that this ability that we have to take the time and really sharpen the prompts that we're giving to this generative AI really can translate back into how we are more specific in how we speak to the people in our real lives.
Absolutely.
No, and that we're not, there's this ambiguity is not always there. It's not a problem.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
have observed, and the ones who are in the communication business, you probably face this struggle people have to express themselves, to really make sense of what they want to say. And even us, we are in the business, we are training, we are coaching, we have our experience, and sometimes we fall into the same situation for many reasons. Maybe we are too anxious about what we want to say, we are thinking too fast, and we are not considering our audience there immediately and with more consciousness.
Absolutely.
And this is what my topic was and is now, about the conscious communications in the AI era, because with these agents, it becomes so crystal clear when you are not communicating yourself clearly, because the feedback you receive is immediate and is misleading sometimes.
Well, before I ask you some more questions about the conference, we do have a question here from Paul. Have you created your own bespoke chatbot, GPT within ChatGot?
It should be
I'm probably
chatbot.
reading that very
Chatbot.
badly.
No,
Chatbot, okay.
I haven't
Sorry,
created
Paul.
I haven't created mine yet. Have you, Paul? Because I am.
No, I haven't. No, I just, the way you were saying that you were getting, you were working on it and getting a dialogue. I've heard that you're supposed to create your own Chat GPT within Chat GPT that just understands you, and you build that might, but I don't know anything about it, so I'm not.
Well, I haven't either. But what I found, because Tulia the other day gave me some prompts, and it was because I for the last year I've used ChatGPT for lots of different things, and Tulia had said, look, you can ask it this prompt where you can say, based on all of the interactions that we've had, so basically all of the conversations that GPT has had with me, can you give me a breakdown of my profile or my strengths and weaknesses? It gave it to me in seconds. It also gave me that, where I could be working in what my fields are. So while I haven't got the bot, and I don't think Tulia has either, I certainly have a history now with this agent. I keep wanting to say tool. I have a history with it where it was able to say, look at all of the questions you've asked me, the things you've asked me to modify, the different audience analysis outlines and stuff that you've asked me to do. I can now come back to you, Cormac, in a matter of seconds and say, this is your professional strengths, this is your weaknesses, this is this is that. Oh. So this is what it does come down sometimes, Paul, to that sense of, I do feel like I'm in this is a very strange thing to say,
conversation,
relationship, friendship, in a sense, because it was very specific in the things that it knew about me. And I can confidently say that all of those things were correct.
Yeah. And the thing is, what we want to bring here is, as we said, our experiences and how we can learn. And so whatever you want to share about your experience is welcome.
Yes, please do. And Gabby's hands up.
Yes, Gabby, I'll get back to just finish this here about what Paul said. I know that inside of the paid version of ChatGPT, you can create your assistants. and you give, there's an area there, and then you give them specific tasks that they will then perform those tasks for you based on
admin?
your, yes,
Yeah.
admin tasks, yes. As schedule your posts, you have to integrate with other ones, but we are in this process of learning this as
Yes.
well. And because here it comes the thing again, you need to really know what you want, because otherwise you are not specific enough and you're not taking the most of it. I give I share a story about a video that I watched, and someone like a techie person was explaining, let's explain to you what is a ChatGPT, and just for you to understand it is very simple. And he gave like a very nice, interesting metaphor. And he said like having access to generative AI is the same as having Einstein in your basement. What does that mean? Mean that you have at your hand, on demand, someone there with all the knowledge that you can possibly imagine. They're waiting for you to ask questions, but you do need to be able to elaborate these questions, to be able to, that they are insightful enough to be worth this conversation with this Einstein. Because then he says, otherwise it's like you hire a Michelin star chef and ask him to fry eggs. So this is what Cormac and I, we are trying not to be the ones hiring the Michelin and asking him to fry eggs, really to build this dialogue.
I can fry my own eggs.
Let's see,
Gabby.
Gabby, what do you want to say, Gabby?
Okay, I've got a few things. I mean, I get what you're saying, that the better and more sophisticated you get at asking questions or having this dialogue with the generative AI, the better your answers are going to be, or the better your results are going to be. But one of the things that I have, and I'm speaking from a place of complete ignorance, so let me establish that first. It's one of the reasons I'm here. One of the things that I think affects communication is basically that people don't take into account their audience in all sorts of ways. One, the different characters that they might have to communicate with. They need that emotional intelligence to understand who they're communicating with in order to communicate with effectively, because the way that I receive or express information might be very different to the way that somebody else receives or expresses communication. So my big question here is generative AI able to read non-verbal communication? Is it able to read body language? Is it able to read all the nuances that you get in a face-to-face context that is not within how you express yourself in terms of words? I guess that's
I definitely don't think it does at the minute, Gabby, but I would say it's fast coming. So for example, one of the things that I recommend people to do when they're creating speeches, as you know, you and Tulia are in several of the projects that we do with young people, is that just what you've described there, AI is I find Chatty very, very, very good for creating an audience analysis. So if I go in and say, listen, I have been asked to speak to this group of people from this company at this level, et cetera, what can I have an audience analysis and what I could expect of who's in the room, the backgrounds they might have, et cetera. That is very, very, very valuable information. However, as you rightly said, and this is where I think it will never change, and there will always be a need for communication trainers like us, is that how do you translate that into being then in the room armed with that information, which is wonderful information, but then reading all of the things that you've just touched on there, Gabby, the body signs. Are they confused? Are they not interested? Are they somehow angry about something else, but I have to deal with that now because I'm delivering my speech? I think all of that part, even when AI comes to the point where I think it's not unfeasible to imagine that one day an AI agent would be able to maybe scan a room and say, you know, the general energy and atmosphere in the room is this. I don't think they're ever going to be able to tell you how you, as a communicator, as a speaker, can change that energy, bring it back around to where you want to go, how that you can connect. I don't see that part as being possible.
No.
And that's the magic of what, as you know, Gabby's a very, very high level trainer. That's the magic of what communication does, what communicating trainers can teach people to do. And even as you know, Gabby, you've been in the same position, teaching that to people, and it doesn't come naturally to everybody, is absolutely possible, but it's a process.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the part that AI could ever do for us.
I know for sure there is another AI, a generative AI called, I don't know, is it Hume. I would check that for you, Gabby, because it's one that I have to investigate. And this has a capability to make an analysis of your written text in terms of your emotional level. And yes, I haven't tried this one. This is one is
Wow.
goes to our list.
Okay.
And it's very interesting because what are you saying there, from what I understood, you're in the next level, right? How then I think it would need to be, maybe I'm talking about BS here, but I think then it would need to be a more an avatar that can be in the room and then make this analysis. But there are tools already that if you take some texts and place those texts, but then it comes again, we go back to what I said, you need to be very specific on the circumstances, the context around that text that you are asking to be analyzed. I give you a real example. One of my private clients for coaching 101, she works in a big organization, big management role, lots of pressure. And she was having a situation with one of the managers, and she was really upset, really fed up. And one exercise I do with my clients and students is like, put it out, write it down, put everything, and then let it be, and then you come back, and then you start reviewing step by step. You go shaping, polishing the text until it's in a sendable level, right? That you're not overboard.
Non-explosive.
Not explosive.
let's
So
call it.
she did the same exercise, but this time she, in the end, after she exploded, like in written form, she used the ChatGPT, and she said, she then described the situation, described the problem she was having with this particular person, described how she was feeling, but what was the outcome she wanted to convey with her message. And that although she wanted to express her emotions, but she wanted to sound professional and get to the point. And one thing that she said to me was her feeling with the result, because she put it there, pasted her text, and then it came the result. She started reading, and she said she was, the first reaction, in shock, but in a positive shock, because she felt that it really expressed what she wanted to say, convey the message with emotions, but without all the exaggerations. And then she copied and she sent. And one of the most important things for me, a part of that, was the second thing she said. She said, you know what? I sent it, and then it was as if I took a weight from my shoulders, because I knew I had expressed myself the way I wanted. It was professional. I made my point, and I just did what I had to do. I was relaxed. And for me, that
And
was
she had
the,
minimized the hurt she
yes,
was feeling.
she did not
the
escalate it.
emotions.
And then I asked her what was the response. She said, for my surprise, her words, he replied very to the point, without all the
Drama.
drama
Let's
and
say.
the psychological, political things that we know that happens, just saying that he was going to consider her points and was going to get back to her, and was a super win for her. And this is what I say, and this is what my experience has been with this exploring those tools. Well, agents.
And when you imagine, if you're taking that story, I haven't met the woman that you're talking about, but if it's extremely hard to sit down and remove the hurt and the anger and the upset to a point where you can produce a document like that,
Mhm.
that's going to express the legitimate points that you want to make without all of this extra emotion on top of it. Getting to that point is very, very difficult, very time consuming, whereas this agent was able to get her there faster, and she still had the control of reading the final text, feeling satisfied that it was doing what she needed it to do, and then sending it. And so it wasn't just the time and the effort that it saved her, it was also the fact that she was able to then save an additional time and effort by bringing this person closer to a reasonable point of discussion. Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of where it can be really useful, actually, because I mean, that's basically conflict management, and I can understand that it's programmed to deal, because there's a way of expressing emotion that doesn't put the other person on the defensive, but it can take quite a long time if you're trying to actually get a client to see the way that they need to write that, so it's non-confrontational. And I can imagine this robot being really good like that. I mean, they're actually using generative AI as therapists as well, you know, so there is the technology there. However, they're still not replacing the person in the room, you know.
Well, I mean, you know who this is? Tully and I were reading up a little bit to try to, because like we said, we'll repeat this for the people who are watching the playback. We're not experts. We're very, very curious people. So I think it was in The Guardian. Gabby and I are both come from the same background in Northern Ireland. And I found in The Guardian, I think it was during the week, that a church in Switzerland had put an AI Jesus in the confessional box that spoke 100 different languages.
Called Deus Machina.
Deus et Machina.
Yes,
but that means
machina.
something else as well.
The God in a machine.
Yeah,
God
so I
machine.
had sent this to Tulia, and I think the curious part of us, but also I suppose the point that we're at in each other's life, the first question both of us had was, but how do you know somebody's not recording that? So you're in there giving
I know,
confessions in whatever language, and who's watching? But then again, back in the traditional system, we trusted and believed in the priest's silence, but we really know.
Exactly.
We know.
You sort of need that faint scent of whiskey on the priest's breath to know that you're really being heard, don't you? Your time in the confession box. That sort of
Can you
sense
imagine?
of
And
the
that
Jameson
exists now
floating
inside the
across the
church.
grill.
And if you can replace therapists, apparently you can also replace the Son of God.
No.
In 100 languages. But I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a
And the
great.
thing here, Gabby, you said the key word here, like we are not, if we still need people. And what the more I research and with people who are the experts, of course, and they are insisting very much. And the point is, it's not about replacing humans; it's about complementing, and
Yeah.
complementing in a way that, of course, these machines, these agents already have accumulated the knowledge of the whole humankind history and are able to connect dots and analyze and then give you the filter in seconds, something that we will never be able to do. But then here comes our role. What is my role? My role is this: to become critical, analytical, and really dig into what I want. This is why I am a believer, and here is where I'm cheering for the communication. Yes, I am a believer that in a way, this is going to get back to our humanity, because for us to remain relevant, for us to be present and be an agent, like also an active agent in this process, we need to have an active, proactive approach. And our approach is the one to tell what has to be done. And then we can enjoy ourselves and in the matters of what is our inherent human abilities, creativity, innovation.
That's my next question. So you're right. So AI has access to all of that knowledge that there has ever been. Is it in a position to create new knowledge?
Yes.
So it can provide me with everything that exists, but it can create new.
Yeah, because
or that still is human dependent.
No, no, no.
It can actively create new knowledge.
It can, and like it learns, it learns in the process of it make correlations as us when we are learning something. We learn one thing and another, and then put the two things
then you
together, we
reference.
create a third thing, right?
Yeah.
That's our process of learning. I get one thing, another thing put together. Oh, I can create more.
Mm.
So this is the process. They go learning and they go communicating with each other. There was your colleague, the guy Olivier, we are going to
Yes.
interview soon. He mentioned something very interesting. He said, well, there is a question where when we all have access to all these prompts, but everybody use the same prompt, all of a sudden we invited to speak in the event and everybody have the
It's the
same
same-
speech.
Well, I mean, this
It's
is
the
a
same
thing
audience
that
analysis. Sorry, Paul.
so this is a thing that's meeting certain places where they in academia, where students are using for their applications and things like that, and they're all using very similar prompts and actually more or less putting exactly the same things on
same
the
answers.
forms because they're all using the same language to the same machines, getting the same output. So I mean, this is the this is a danger of it, where people aren't having what you might call a very specific dialogue with the machine as themselves, but just using generic things and getting a generic answer.
And then, you know, coming back to Paul's world, because Paul is a communicator, but maybe just in a different way. If as a writer, people were to start to using these tools more and more, would we get to the point then that you know, what we were talking about before we started the call, Paul, with you, the quality of your language, would that start to change? Would it start to become somehow a bit more standardized? Would the whole creativity and all of those connections start to be affected if not if AI was producing every book, but if, you know, a writer went and had a prompt and some other writers had similar prompts, would they end up? You know, it's fascinating.
This is the
Why
fascinating. This is
we're-
slightly unknown because I mean, at the moment, ChatGPT's massive weakness, all these things gets very weak when it starts doing creative work. And in my world of comedy, ChatGPT is very, very vulnerable. It's rubbish. It's
Yeah.
frankly, it's appalling. I mean, it can trot out a load of mother-in-law jokes or give you a list of 10 very boring jokes that nobody would ever say, but it can't actually create a spontaneous, surprising, genuine laugh. It can it's at best the worst dad jokes you'll ever hear, and that's on a good day.
But then
that's on a good day now.
yeah, no, but
Yeah,
then
but I don't know whether
A
that's
couple of
going.
years from now, I don't know.
no, but
I'm less worried about that than I'm worried about other things in the sense with ChatGPT, because I don't think it possesses the core listening skills and the unexpected. So much about comedy is totally unexpected and random.
Yes.
And silence.
ChatGPT's vulnerability is it's logical. It was created by logical people to be logical, and actually comedy is never logical ultimately.
yeah,
And
in
it's
this-
like, sorry, I was just
Oh.
going to say, I think it's the same for comedy in a way, because a lot has got to do with delivery. And when you're a coach, one of the most important tools that you've got is that silence, or that pregnant silence. That's where all the thinking and revelation and
Yes.
light bulbs go on. And you can't really program a machine or an app or anything, I think, to reproduce that, because it's very much the feeling. And it's the same with a comedian and the audience. You feel the audience, you know, that, and that's what you play off. And thank goodness it's going to be hard for generative
But
AI.
that's my point. My point is now we're still thinking the way in kind of protecting ourselves and saying, oh,
It'll
oh
never
wait,
get
it's
there.
not going to get this because it cannot do this. I think the mindset, the shift that we
Yeah.
have to have is this.
Hmm.
We know already, and you both said, it's not creative, it's poor, it's very
Logical.
poor, and it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
But it can give us information, resources, and references that we then collect,
Yeah.
and then we use our creativity, our capability of being innovative, and build something better. I think
Yeah.
that is where we have to see and come to the age.
I think
and say,
that's a great-
"Let's
I think
come
that's
and
a
let's
great-
work together."
I think that's a
Not
great
like
basis for
expecting it.
something. I think that's a great rowing back. And unfortunately, obviously, the trouble with the tech community is it's massively loves a massive overclaim. And I think they haven't done themselves any favors by sort of saying it will do everything. It's going to be amazing at everything. Because actually, if they'd been a bit more humble about some of the claims, they probably wouldn't be getting the pushback, because we know that it will be at its best when it's like that. When we use it as a resource to do, what was it that Erasmus said about the soul, and then it tell you that, and then what am I going to do with that knowledge? I'm going to turn that into something else, and that's wonderful. But the tech people are sort of saying it'll don't worry, it'll do something marvelous with Erasmus itself. Do you know what? I'm less bothered about that.
and
I think your scale and your that positive approach is very good. I completely go with that.
Because I think, you know, when Tulia says here about having an Einstein in the basement, and when I was talking before about the kind of relationship, friendship, almost, I think my current relationship with ChatGTP is that I feel that I have an incredible research assistant that I can go to and that rattles through hundreds of thousands of libraries in seconds to say, this is what you want to know about the Erasmus quote that you want to use to open your speech, and finds it for me. And then I can take that. And then based on that, I've saved myself the time and the research of finding that. And then I can start giving myself the time and the space to be creative, to use that quote in the right place inside the speech, to wonder how that quote is going to affect the audience when I say it. All of those things are still very much in our remit. But the, you know, the research assistant that I now have permanently
research
incredible.
assistant. Yeah. And the one thing, like Paul and Gabi, there's always going to be these people that they, you know, the passive ones. And when I was researching for my keynote, one of the things that came across, it was about, because I was talking about how to use the agent as a research for communication. And there was a research I came across as saying that in LinkedIn, which has about 810 million users, more than 40% are passive. More than they never write anything. Ever. Never write. So then also there are always going to be the people that want things to happen for them. And
consume, don't produce
anything. And the thing is, here you have a tool agent that can offer you the possibility to expand your knowledge in a faster way that you don't need, like, because Google, we had Google, but you search in Google, you have all the links, you have all, but you have to go one by one and then research, etc. And here you can have, ask, this is the topic I'm discussing, I wanted to bring me from these perspectives, I wanted to bring from these authors. You define the scope and it brings for you, and you can, from there, start this journey of going in depth. Well, there are always going to be people, they will never have this ability. That's true.
They'll just get it to write the speech and they'll be happy with it, like getting jokes out of the joke book. There's always been the people who've done speeches out of the joke book, isn't there? So I mean, that's
but if you take Paul's example there, that's great. You know, what's that Erasmus quote about the soul? Okay, you could probably Google it, you find it. Whereas with ChatGTP, it can give you the quote. Then you can ask it, and what was the context of that quote? What part of Erasmus's career did that come at? Why was that quote relevant? How is that quote being used since Erasmus first said it? Where has it appeared across, you know, plays, books, whatever? And you can just get into this incredible research conversation with ChatGTP that gives you all of those answers for you to then go away and go, I'm now sufficiently armed about Erasmus and that quote that when I get up and I use it and I'm speaking in public and I'm connecting with my audience, I feel that if somebody wants to ask me about it or even challenge me about it or question why I was using it, I have enough additional knowledge that I can answer that back. You know, so
and before you could have done the same, but it would have taken much more time and research. And now we have this capability, and you can always, and also is recommended, double check by yourself, because you can. They use the expression They use the expression that the GTP can hallucinate. And it hallucinates sometimes, and it happened to me, is when, but it then comes from you, when your question, your request was not clear enough, and it assumed something, and then it went in a different line of thought. And there was
Which can happen in any research.
absolutely. And there was also a sentence for in an article from the German magazine called the Die Urologie. The whole article summarized in one sentence, which was the AI is only as good as its user. And I think we can hold into that sentence, because that is what we are bringing here with our dialogues, is we are equipping ourselves as much as we can, so we can take the most of this technology that is already here, and how this can help us to improve what we do and to serve better.
If you think of that sentence, AI is only as good as its user, you could exchange the word EI for library and say a library is only as good as its user. And, you know, just in the course of this conversation, I'm starting to realize that for me, my current status with AI is that it's very much an interactive librarian that provides everything I need as I need it very, very quickly and oftentimes accurately. Gabby, feel free to jump in now. You don't need to be putting your hand up.
Yeah, I just before you even said that, my question was, like, from what I'm understanding, that what you said there, Julia, was that how AI functions depends on the user and the questions that they ask of it. So our job as coaches or presentation coaches, communication coaches, facilitators, whatever, is it to train, will it be partly to train people how to ask the right questions?
I believe, yes, but I believe that's what we are doing already in our current work. But now you have a tool that you can ask them, okay, go there, and we were talking about this today, Cormac, as an exercise. You said about your opening, what do you said?
Your opening line, no?
Your opening statement for your
speech.
For your speech. And then Cormac said, let's ask them to write their opening statement for their speech, because then they have to think about the audience, they have to think about the context, they have to think about the message they want to convey. And then I said to him, yes, let's ask them to write by themselves first, write their statement, and then once they've done that, they go to the tool, to the agent, and then do the same process as, here's the context, here's the message I want to convey, this is my audience, they are formed about these people, demographics, everything, and please give me an opening line, and then you can compare. I think this is the exercise we can do with these tools, you know, because it's about like comparing, how do I want to express myself in this, or even like sometimes I write something and said, I want to convey this and this and that, this is the situation. You always have to give the context. So this is why I do believe it helps us as communicators in what we are doing, because what our people, the people we serve, lack is this ability to understand the context, to understand their audience, to understand what exactly they want to the message they want to convey, and the outcomes. But then this when we are working with the agent there, with this GPT, it becomes more tangible, because you receive the answer immediately in your face, and then you can analyze, say, oh, that's not what I wanted.
But you've also got sorry, Cormac.
No, so I was just going to finish that, Paul, and then I'm going to come to you. So Gabby, I think that also goes back to what Tulia said about you as the end user. So if you do the work of writing your own opening line and then you put one into ChatGPT, you can compare and contrast. If the one in ChatGPT is better, some people in the world will go, okay, great, that'll do me. Other people go, well, God, if that's better, I can use this to then go back to my own and make my own better, and I can use that to craft it. And then you're always going to have people that are going to go, no, that's good enough for me. Or you're going to have people that go, well, you know, if you're slightly better than I am, I'm going to do the work to try to get slightly better based on what you've provided for me. And then it does end up coming back to how the user uses what the agent has given it, your relationship to what it has given it, and whether you're going to take it as not the easy way out, but I'll take that sentence, it'll do me, or that has inspired me to do better on my own.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul.
I mean, no, it's not a separate point to that. It's a sort of an addition, just to say, you know, whenever you're doing a writing, actually, you've got the first draft and you print it out and you go, put it in a drawer. You know, I wonder with ChatGPT, slight problem is whether it's too quick and you don't have that, you know, put it in a drawer, come back to it tomorrow feeling that, you know, with great writing in particular needs that little bit of brewing time, doesn't it? So it's a bit like making having a cup of tea, dipping the tea bag in for 1 second and then wondering why the tea tastes a bit thin. I mean, I wonder whether you know,
I was also thinking about the joy in writing. You know, when you get a great idea and that great sentence and you write it down, to then go into, I mean, I personally wouldn't, but you know, to go into GPT and maybe get something better, it takes away that kind of joy for me of writing. That
well, it would be, but I think Cormac's got a good point that if you then take it back and make it creative and then use that as an invitation to improve your thing, that can be joyful again, because it is like just having an audience reaction, isn't it? Somehow.
Well, that's almost what it feels like a bit, Paul. That here's my opening statement, then I get what I can from my experience see is actually a better sentence, maybe because it's worded, or because it's shorter, or because they're using a different verb. And like I said, if you then take that as a new writing challenge and go, well, if you can do that, by God, and then you get into that joyful, because I agree with you. I think all four of us here today, because speech writing and that creation is writing, you know, we all have experienced that joyful moment of, and I would never want to get involved with an agent that would take that away from me, but somehow, again, and it depends on how you approach it, it can inspire you to greater things sometimes.
I think so, because it is the brainstorm process. Now you have someone, you have an agent there that can immediately react to what you're saying, and you can continue that conversation. And again, I think what we have to change in our mindset is not going to solve your life. Like I was doing an online training, and I'm still doing, but it was the application of the generative AI in business. And one thing of the trainer was saying that some people come and say, oh, I want an AI tool that can do all my marketing. Oh, it will never happen. It can do certain marketing structure that is a common one. Yes, that generic things. Yes, but yours, for your audience, for the way you want, that is still requires you. But then you'll be saving a lot of time in certain things that are more mechanical. Once you decide the way to go, you say, okay, now that's the way to go. It's going to be 4 weeks, and I need 4 emails on this, and I want to convey this, and then it will lay down for you. Then you go back, and then you just have to tweak. You don't need to be there thinking about all this mechanical work of creating email for your marketing, for example, which takes forever, and now it takes just few hours for you. And I think that is the point that we like to bring here, that how we can take most of this, these new agencies. Now we are talking about ChatGPT. There are many more that we want to explore, and we will bring here, and then we share our experience, and then we invite you to share to try and share yours as well, because I think that's the way we will building up on it. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, certainly, you know, as we're coming to the end of the conversation, my current advice to anybody that I was working with that wanted to deliver a high quality, a high stakes speech would be absolutely use ChatGPT for your audience analysis. Put as much information as you can into that agent about who you're going to be speaking to, see what the research that it brings back to you. Yes, you could probably use it for this is what I want to talk about. This is the time I have to talk about. And I'd like an outline. I'd like you to propose a spine for the talk. But I mean, that's it. With that information, I would be then recommending that person, now step away. Now you have to do the hard work yourself. Now you have to bring your own creativity, your own personality. You, with that information it's given you, you've saved yourself time and energy, but the real hard, but yet joyful creative part now has to happen. And that's the part that's going to make you successful with your audience, not the analysis, provide you information, not the spine, which you can also tweak to work better for you. It's the you part that you put into that.
Sure.
But you're getting to do the work of the you part much faster. You've saved yourself a lot of time and energy. So when I'm working with people now, that's as far as it goes for me in terms of how it can be used. But then again, I'm only beginning. I'm only learning. Maybe there's much better ways to use it.
Yeah, I think we also know that one of the great things that makes speeches or presentations really great are your stories, you know?
Exactly.
And that's something that ChatGPT can't reproduce because they don't know your stories. They don't know anecdotes. And
no, and I tried to ask her to create a story for me, and as the same for Paul with their comedy. Paul, it was such a it was no, and I said, you're not good on that. You're not good on that. We are not going to get there. So that's you see, but it's still there are lots of things that we can explore. And I think that's the opportunity we have to take to explore and to get to know these tools and that can save time and can help us to expand our knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think can also provide a sense of confidence in a way, because if you have, and Tulia and I have done the exercise, you know, it can provide incredibly detailed audience analysis, all of which is extremely useful information for you. If you feel that you know the audience probably in a much deeper way that your own time would have given you to be able to research them, that can add to somebody's confidence, because even though they then go and use their own material, their own anecdotes, their own story, like Gabby has said, I think the confidence of knowing that I really do feel I know more about you as an audience than I would have done without this agent does add to people's confidence.
Absolutely.
You do feel more confident up there.
Yeah.
You're more empowered.
We don't have to finish. We could continue half an hour more time, but it's great that you've been here, that we are able to share and have these questions. And as Cormac said at the beginning, we have more questions than answers. Many more. And we welcome you and everybody to come and share your, someone is coming now, Mafalda, but we are just about to close, Mafalda. And we are, yes, the intention is to come here and to continue every Monday, to continue with this digital dialogues as part of our relaunch of our Speak Up and Lead Academy.
And Paul and Gabby will go down in history as the very first fantastic, wonderful guests and participants on our first digital dialogue. We are relaunching the Speak Up and Lead Academy, which will be the umbrella organization for everything that we're looking to do in the future. We are actively intending to lead the charge. As I said in the beginning, we have a foot and 3/4 in the traditional communication world. We have more than a toe dipped into now into this new fascinating world. It's been a privilege to be able to have this conversation with you, especially having Paul and Gabby to be here, and hopefully they come back for future episodes. And as we always say, Tulia, 1, 2, 3, everything starts with communication.
Well,
Thank you very much.
I'd just like to say thank you. It's been really useful and really interesting.
Come back next
Come back every
Monday.
Monday.